Well, black people are Native Americans. We've had a lot of proof that you know some of us started here in this land. We wasn't Everybody wasn't brought over from Africa.
What are they doing here? They're Indians.
This is one of my many unsuccessful experiments. You see, with Indians, there's absolutely nothing to be done. There's the same difference between a Negro and an Indian as there is between a dog and a coyote. You can put a dog on a leash, beat him, and he'll always be there to lick your feet. Take away a coyote's liberty, and you've cut off his heir. An Indian will never be a slave. No one has ever been able to make them reproduce in captivity. They do not eat, they do not talk, they do not sleep, they do not make love.
There are several things that are significant about it. Of course, one of them is the way that colonialism tries to develop all kinds of elaborate classification terms for different kinds of people, but that's another subject. The most significant thing here is to reveal the much greater amounts of Native American ancestry that are present within the African American population than most people realize, because they might have been misled by the use of terms like mulatto and also people of color.
After the African, LeVar Burton, had been told that his name was to be Toby, and he refused it, and he was beaten to make him say his name was Toby.
How was the dramatization? How much of that actually was recounted to you? I mean, was there a lot of interweaving?
A lot of it, I thought maybe you were going to ask, and maybe you are in another way, is how much of the book is fact and how much is fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction.
Now, this is just a tiny bit of information now.
But they take it as huge.
Right, because it's cracking open the door.
There's a place in Africa you could say that I'm from. A tribe? I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people.
Hank really is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have
He
the
didn't
largest...
exclude you. He included you.
But we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns. We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
it's less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%.
And that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
You do not know a goddamn thing about Africa. I am from Detroit, Motown. So you can want Tootsie your monkey ass back to Africa if you want to.
How y'all doing? Sorry, I was rushing to get over here. I heard the thing going down, girl. I hit my knee on the chair. Ooh. Anyway, sorry about the late live, y'all. I had to go from my house to my man's house, drop off his dry cleaning, drop off saying it was just too much. So my apologies for the late live, but we won't be alone. It won't be a long one, but I did want to touch on a few things. Now, I was kind of going back and forth. I'm sorry. I was kind of going. Oh, girl, my bad. I had to muted the mic when I pulled it. My bad, y'all. I'm sorry. Did y'all didn't hear nothing? I'm sorry. My bad. Apologies. When I pulled the mic toward me, I muted it. I'm sorry. But what I was saying was I was thinking about doing two different educational Fridays. One was on the Boston Tea Party, because I don't know if y'all know that it was a lot of people from Britain, Great Britain, who was protesting against the Great Britain people, and they did that by dressing up as Indians. Sorry, y'all, I was eating. They did that by dressing themselves up as Indians, or whatever the case may be. Mohawk Indians, to be exact. They said the Indian tribe, another Indian tribe, caught the blame for it, or whatever the case may be. But I wanted to kind of dig a little bit into that. I thought it was interesting too, Mrs. Higgins. She said I thought it was interesting. But I decided, because I was rushing and I was doing too much. Yes, they tried to frame us. Yes. So y'all know. See, I didn't know if y'all wanted to hear more about that or the Harlem Renaissance thing. And I was going back and forth. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And I decided to just hit on the Harlem Renaissance. But what we'll do is next week, we'll revisit that. We'll go to there. We'll definitely go over there. Did I not? Anyways, so with that being said, we're going to do, they were cowards. And listen, you got to be careful about this too, because this is what they'll do. Shout out to everybody in the building. This is what they'll do. They would frame us knowing, listen, they would frame us so that they don't get the blame for the stuff that they do, like they always do. And then we be stuck holding the bag. It's almost, they do it to this day. They still do it. But don't worry about it. We got you next week, Fed. I was just like, wow. Oh, no, this is what I want to say. So how history, remember his story, the way they work is they tell it in a way that don't make them look bad. So for instance, when you go to look up the history on it, it'll say, oh, they dressed as the Mohawk Indian tribe to pay homage or to show that they were real Americans. That is a lie. A lie, and the truth ain't in it. Girl, they didn't dress up like no Indians to show that there was no real Americans. Girl, they was out there framing. Remember, wasn't no cameras back then. So when the tea got back, literally, no pun intended, but when it would get back to the king and the queen and all of them other people, they could say it wasn't us, it was them Negroes, which were the Indians. So we're going to dive into it next week. But this week we're on the Harlem Renaissance, and I wanted to talk about Langston Hughes. Now, a lot of people don't know this. I'm sorry, I feel like I got something in my teeth. Yeah, anyway. A lot of people don't know that the Harlem Renaissance, the civil rights movement, all of that was really geared by what we now know today as the LGBTQ community. Shout out to the community, because I feel like acorn is acorn. I don't give a damn what you is. You a Negro, you a Negro. I don't give a damn. Okay. And it was a lot of those things were hidden about the Harlem Renaissance because it wasn't accepted. Like you didn't come out flashy, flamboyant, gay. If you did, you went off somewhere and you did that. Okay. And that's what people don't understand when it comes to the movement. Now, it makes me fast forward to the day, and I thought about Black Lives Matter. And when we realized Black Lives Matter was just headed by some lesbians, shout out to the L's, a lot of people were shocked, me, and a lot of people were kind of upset. Now, I'm not going to say I was upset, but I felt duped, because I'm just like, okay, I thought this was really about Black lives. But what they've done now and what they've done back then is put a black face on it, but with a whole other motive, if that makes sense. Now, we talked about Zora Neale Hurston. We were taught in school that this lady was like lit. Everybody liked this lady. Nobody rocked with no Zora Neale Hurston. Nobody, literally. So much so that when she died in the 60s, they had to wait about 20, 30, 40 years and then come back with a whole new generation of children who ain't know nothing about no Zora Neale Hurston and paint her to be great, because the people did not rock with no Zora Neale Hurston. We already talked about that. She basically was a caricature of black people, and she painted us as ignorant fools. Now, people like his story likes to say that she's a great writer. Oh, she was a great artist, writer from literary figure from the Harlem Renaissance. They romanticizes her. But the gag is, we talked about it on this channel. If you haven't seen that live, go check it out. I'm sorry. Negroes did not rock with no Zora Neale Hurston. Literally. And they were all a part of this group that were a federal group. They were hired by the feds. And we talked about Langston Hughes as well. Oh, I didn't think about this. Yes, Shantae, Tyler Perry tease. That's what it's very much giving, Tyler Perry tease. But that's not what this is about. Well, it is kind of about that. But I really want to highlight some of the things that we didn't know about the movement, that we thought it was about one thing, but the whole time it really was about something else, because that's what they do. If you think about Black Lives Matter, like I brought up just a second ago, Black Lives Matter, that movement originally had us thinking it was really about Black people and us getting rights. Whole T, it was to push a whole other agenda. Okay. And I believe, in my opinion, that's what the Harlem Renaissance was as well. Now, what I wanted to get into, hold on, was it wasn't talked about, but it wasn't like taboo. Everybody knew Langston Hughes was femties. Like, everybody knew Langston Hughes like the boys. Everybody knew Langston Hughes was loose-wristed. It just wasn't widely publicized in media. Does that make sense? So, like, anybody who was around back then, because when you start doing the research and you just put in Langston Hughes gay or Langston Hughes LGBT movement, a plethora of things pop up. Like, and it was so much so he had pictures and photos like this that literally nobody talked about because it was taboo. It's not even taboo, because listen, people been gay since the beginning of time. But this is the thing. I think it wasn't widely accepted amongst Black culture or culture, period. So they kind of hid that part. They just made him seem like he was just this straight man. Now, I was on the phone with my best friend last night, and I was telling her about it. And she said, you know what? I should have knew. She said, I know. She said, I knew he was gay. I said, how you knew? I forget what movie or what show she was watching. But she said Jussie Smollett played Langston Hughes. Who know the show? I can't remember what show she said last night. But she was like, oh, yeah, I knew that. And I was like, how you knew? She was like, girl, Jussie Smollett played him in, I can't remember the name of the movie. And girl, I was like, oh. Girl, if it was a snake, it would have bit me. You see what I'm saying? And that's the type of symbolism they like to do. They like to get gay people to play these artists and be like, oh, you know, you got to find the clues or whatever the case may be. But what we come to find out about the Harlem Renaissance is it was a federal movement by some foreigners and a lot of Black Americans that had another agenda attached to it, which was a lot of the LGBTQIA plus movement. Shout out to the movement. The only issue I would take with this is just say that. Don't hide under Black. Just say Black gay movement or Black, you know what I mean? Just don't hide under the umbrella of struggle. We already got a lot of people and a lot of stuff under our umbrella. I just don't think we need any more, especially from our own community. Like, just, you know, be who you are for your pride. You know how the boy did on TikTok, but nevertheless. So I went and I found this, and again, it was right up under our noses. We just didn't know. But again, it was meant to be like that. It was meant to hide in plain sight. Okay. So now I want to go to a couple of little articles that I found. And we're going to talk about those things. Now, before we get into should we go here first? Hold on. I'm trying to see something. I do have a couple of little videos for y'all as well. But I'm trying to see something. Let's go to the Harlem Renaissance. Let's just go to what the Harlem Renaissance was according to the people. We all know his story is always 79, 80% false and 20%, 30% truth, okay? The name says it all, Langston. So you think the mama named him, she looked at him and just said, I just know he gonna be loose-wristed. Langston it is. You know, they say the mamas could tell from the beginning. That's what they say. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But they say the mamas could tell from the very beginning, and she might have looked at him and seen that extra twinkle in his eyes and said, you know, I was going to name him Larry, but Langston it is. Girl, y'all is crazy, girl. Y'all is crazy. It was the twinkle in the eyes. That's what it was, Shantae. It was in the eyes. That's what I think it was, too. That's what I think it was, too. But whatever. Y'all get the likes up on the video. Please get the likes up. So, according to this article from Humanities Texas, this is what they had to say about the Harlem Renaissance. It said, what was it and why does it matter? All right. We don't care about that. What was the Harlem Renaissance and when did it begin? The seemingly simple question reveals the complexities of the movement we know varyingly as the New Negro Renaissance, the New Negro Movement, the Negro Renaissance, the Jazz Age, or the Harlem Renaissance. Now, mind you, be mindful of them saying the New Negro, the New Negro. What do you mean the new? See, in my opinion, this is just me. In my opinion, this was to usher in a new image for the so-called black person. And this was also to usher in that black bourgeoisie class of Negroes. In my opinion, I could be wrong. On my soul, I could be wrong. But I believe that this is to usher in that new black bourgeoisie and make them palatable to the average black and to the average clear. Because remember, the clears thought we was all country bumpkin, farm raised, farm eating, you know what I mean, type Negroes. It was, in my opinion, that's why it was a clear man who was heading this too. But it was, in my opinion, a way to introduce the black bourgeoisie to both blacks and clear people, in my opinion. So that's why you got all this new Negro this, new Negro that, new Renaissance, new this, new movement, all that. So it also says to answer this question, it's necessary to place the movement within time and space and then to define its nature. This task is much more complex than it might seem. It says traditionally, the Harlem Renaissance was viewed primarily as a literary movement centered in Harlem and growing out of black migration and the emergence of Harlem as the premier black metropolis in the United States. I want to stop here really quick. I ain't gonna be long. Listen, there's a lot of things happening in New York and coming out of New York. That melting pot, mind you, they got blacks coming from the South because wait, let me back up. Before this big migration that happened to New York, you guys do know that there were a black population of people that resided in New York. Okay, it's where Central Park is now. What's the name of that community? I saw the tip of my tongue. And I told you I looked into that. I had to look and find out who the black dude was who come out of Canada. But it was prior to Central Park. There was a black community, Seneca Village. I don't know why I was going to say Singalese. Seneca Village. Thank you so much, Win. But yes, Seneca Village was a black populated community that was there. It wasn't until they forced those people out and bought their homes and forced the rest of them out and then created Central Park to where it became almost desolate as it pertains to blacks, right? Because remember, there are black native people to New York. I want to make that clear. There are native black people who were there prior to, and even some very few, because a lot of them went on the reservations, but a lot of them came back. So there are black people who are indigenous to the area of what we know now as New York. But for the large majority of the blacks down there, it was a lot of blacks coming from the South. After they wiped away that black population that was up there, it was black people coming from the South, and it was a whole lot of black influx of Caribbean immigrants, black ones, okay? A lot of black Caribbean, and this is before the Puerto Ricans and all of them came. A lot of influx of the black population going into this one area of Harlem. So you got to be mindful when the powers that be does this stuff, they're thinking 59 steps ahead while we're not even on the right step. Okay. And they're doing this because this is another way of confusion, in my opinion, to the original indigenous black people of the American land. Okay. Because even though we were still coming from the South, we knew who we were. And you can tell that today when we talk about the origins of hip hop. What do the black people who are Black American in New York say? Oh no, that comes from Black American culture, not Puerto Rican, not Jamaican, because it was meant to confuse us, and it did confuse a lot of us. It did, but it didn't confuse all of us, and some of us were able to hold on to who and what we are. So, in my opinion, this is in my opinion, the Harlem Renaissance was one of those things to mix up that melting pot and confuse a lot of people, because it's a lot going on at the same time, and it's all coming out of this one little area where we got big influxes of blacks coming from America and all around the Americas. Okay. So moving on. So it says where was I? Okay, music and theater were mentioned briefly more as background and local color, as providing inspiration for poetry and local color for fiction. However, there was no analysis of the development in these fields. Likewise, art was discussed mostly in terms of Aaron Douglas and his association with Langston Hughes and other writers who produced Fire in 1926. But there was little or no analysis of the work of African-American artists. It says, and there was even less discussion of analysis of the work of women in the field of art, music, and theater. Okay, so this was very much a literary movement. But remember, these are going to be the people who are writing or helping to write his story for us in the future. Okay, fortunately, this narrow view has changed. The Harlem Renaissance is increasingly viewed through a broader lens that recognizes it as a national movement with connections to international developments in art and culture that places increasing emphasis on the non-literary aspects of the movement. Okay, time. First, to know when the Harlem Renaissance began, we must determine its origins. Understanding the origins depends on how we perceive the nature of the Renaissance. For those who view the Renaissance as primarily a literary movement, the Civic Club Diner of March 21st, 1924 signaled its emergence. It says, this event did not occur in Harlem, but was held almost 100 blocks south in Manhattan at the Civic Club on 12th Street and 5th Avenue. Charles S. Johnson, the young editor of the Opportunity, the National Urban League's monthly magazine, conceived the honor to honor writer Jessie Fawcett on the occasion of the publication of her novel, There Is Confusion. A lot of black bourgeoisie going on here. Johnson planned a small dinner party with about 20 guests, a mix of white publishers, editors, literary critics, black intellectuals, and young black writers. But when he asked Elaine Locke, remember we talked about her, to preside over the event, Locke agreed only if dinner honored African-American writers in general rather than one novelist. So the simple celebratory dinner morphed into a transformative event with over 100 attendees. African Americans were represented by W.E.B. Du Bois. We know he's the father of the Boule. It's all political. James Weldon Johnson and others of the black, how do you say that? Intelligentsia, along with Fawcett and representative groups of poets and authors. White guests predominantly were published and critics. Carl Van Doren, editor of Century Magazine, spoke for this group, calling upon the young writers in the audience to make their contributions to the new literary age emerging in America. Let me say this, y'all. Y'all do know they had a lot of blacks coming from Europe that cosplayed as Black American, right? Okay. Martin Luther King, aka Mike, he was a Black European. He was a Negropean. Okay. And I'm not saying that was the case for these people. I looked into W.E.B. Du Bois past, and according to what I found, of course, there's always a parent that nobody can find. So he allegedly had a Black American parent, and then also a father who we don't know who he is. Hold on. Sorry, y'all. I muted the mic because they getting ice per usual. We go through this every week around here. But somebody asked me to explain Elaine Locke. Let me go pull her up. You good, babe. I'm gonna pull her up so y'all can see him up. I'm sorry, so you can see who Alain Locke is. Now, Alain Locke was another gay black man in the Harlem Renaissance. Okay, we talked about him. Thank you. We talked about him a little bit last week, but just to go over the Britannica really quick, Alain Locke was another gay publisher. Remember, this is supposed to be, a lot of y'all don't realize, this is a literary movement. They are ushering in black writers to tell the story, but these black writers are compromised, okay? That's what this is all about. These black writers are compromised, but we don't know it at that time. All we know is they black, so they got to be telling the truth, okay? So what happened was Alain Locke, and I don't want to spend too much time, he was an American educator, writer, and philosopher, best remembered as the leader in chief interpreter of the Harlem Renaissance. Okay, he graduated in philosophy from Harvard in 1907, Boulay, and the first Black Rhodes Scholar, studying at Oxford and the University of Berlin. He received a PhD in philosophy from Harvard in 1918 for almost 40 years until retirement in 1953 as head of the Department of Philosophy. Locke taught at Howard University in Washington, D.C. Locke, like Langston Hughes, like all these other people, were a part of the black bourgeoisie, W.E.B. Du Bois. They were all a part of that Boulay class, okay? These are going to be the talented 10, okay? These are the 10%. The 10% of black people are supposed to rule over the 90% of the others. That's what this whole Boulay thing is all about. So if you were lucky enough, if you want to call it that, to be a part of that talented 10th, remember, the Boulay birthed the Divine Nine. The Boulay birthed the Divine Nine. So if you were lucky enough or born into being a part of that talented 10th, you were one of the top 10% that was supposed to go ahead and rule the other 90% because you were smarter than them. Oh yeah, and I forgot that too. He got pumped and dumped by Langston Hughes. Yes. Alain Locke wanted to be down. He wanted to be. Let me get him up here so y'all can see him. Alain Locke loved it. It did him some. Let me zoom in so you can see him. He was in love with him some Langston. Do you hear me? Alain wanted nothing more but to be down with Langston, Ohio, the ass. But it turns out Langston pumped and dumped, and he was a mess and a wreck ever since. Okay. That's who, what is a pump and dump? A one night stand, girl. A pump and dump means, so Alain thought that he was going to have a relationship with Langston. But Langston was like, I'm good, love. Enjoy. So he smashed him and dashed him. That's what that means. A pump and dump is a smash and dash. And left poor Alain left to his devices, and he just couldn't take it no more. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yup, Talanda, got it and gone. That's all it is, Talanda. Got it and gone. He just wanted some cheeks. But see, Alain didn't know that. Alain thought they could be together. And Langston said, not today, Satan. No, sir. Alain was like, baby, you're not even my type for real. Like, boy, bye. But anyway, they were all a part of this this movement to rewrite and be the faces of his story. That's what this is all about. That's why Zora Neale Hurston was hated by a lot of blacks, because she did not show true depictions of black people. She made us look dumb, ignorant, and stupid. And that was not the case, okay? So to move on really quickly, they were trying to hide the musical and artistry of the aspect or the musical and art aspect of the Renaissance, because it was never meant for that. Granted, it was all like a good, it was kind of like hip hop. Hip hop, basically, the core of hip hop is rap. You got breakdancing, that's a side dish. You got freaking tagging or what do you call it? Graffiti. That's like a dipping sauce. You know what I mean? You got stuff like that. You got the speakers and the beatbox. All of those are side dishes and dipping sauce. But the meat and potatoes of hip hop is rap, right? It's the same thing with the Harlem Renaissance. Literature was the meat and potato. It was the main course. It was the belle of the ball. It was the steak, the ribeye, the big piece of meat. All that other stuff was supposed to be side dishes and dipping sauces. But it just so happened that even though we were and still are a literary people, it just so happened That art piece of it with the music and the dancing and all that stuff and the actual painting and all that stuff, that was big too, because that was also a part of us. Okay, so these are the new ushers of writers. Remember, and let me make this clear because I want y'all to know how this goes. W.E.B. Du Bois, the father of the Black Boule, one of the fathers of the Black Boule, right? He is going to have this talented 10th. These people are literally working straight for the government. The Boule, their fraternity was Sigma Pi Phi, which was named after the clear Skull and Bones Pi Sigma Phi. Mind you, the clear people, even though they say that we stole it from them, they stole everything from us. Okay, let's just start that first. However, in order for the clear people to rule this world and rule America, they had to get blacks online and they had to get them on board. So what they did was they got the Boule and said, y'all gonna be my sons, just like Freemasonry. They got the Grand Lodge Masonry, Freemasonry, that's the clears, and you got Prince Hall. But either way, even if they're still infighting and even if they still have segregation in it, they working together to keep me and you down. And that's what W.E.B. Du Bois and the Boule was doing. So when they ushered in this group of so-called literaries, they were part of the Boule class. Does that make sense? That talented 10th, that small little 10% who's supposed to rule over the 90%. That's what this is all about. But inside of this movement was a very huge gay agenda. Remember, although it wasn't broadcasted all over the news and in the newspaper, it was still widely known that there was a lot of queer going on in there. Everybody knew it. It just wasn't talked about because that wasn't a time where you would do that type of stuff. Okay. So it's a lot of people. And I told y'all, I think Zora Neale was a dagger. I told y'all I thought she was a dagger. Okay. When I showed y'all that picture of Zora, let me go get Zora on here. The way she sat there with that cigarette in her mouth, it really gave me that dagger tease. And I know what I'm talking about. Okay. Hold on. Let's go get Zora. Now, I didn't go and look too much into Zora. But when I had seen what I had seen on Zora, I said dagger tease. Let me go get a picture up here. Hold on, not that. Oh no. I thought I pulled it. Hold on, give me 1 second, y'all. Here she go. I can pull up right here. Zora Neale was definitely giving dagger tease, but it was a lot of people in this movement. It was a lot of people in this movement. This ain't it. I'll let y'all look at this because remember, she looks just like, remember we talked about it the other day? She looks just like Queen Latifah. Y'all remember that? She looks just like Queen Latifah. Let me see, from me. How about that? Don't it look like Queen Latifah reincarnated? Ridiculous, huh? She was a spy is what she was. She was a spy and all of them were spies. They were in there conversing, acting like it was all cool. Whole time they were damn spies working for the government. We talked about that already. Hold on. I'm trying to find that one picture where she's sitting on that porch with that cig in her mouth. And I say, well, that's dagger right there. That's dagger. I know dagger when I see dagger. You know what I mean? Damn. Let me see it. Maybe it's under this article. I thought I had saved the picture by itself. Very masculine tease. You know what I mean? Very, I fight niggas tease. I can't find it. I'm going to look for it. I can't find it. I don't want to spend too much time on it. But it was very, I'll take your bitch tease. You know what I mean? I heard about that. Speaking of, let me write her down. Madam C.J. Walker. Listen, the girl who was the millionaire that we all revere, which we should, but I heard about the freak-offs down at the C.J. Walker mansion, baby. Yes, I did. Let me write her down in my little notes. C.J. Walker. Let me get her down up in here. Yeah, I'm glad you brought her up. Thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, it was a lot of like I said, it was a lot of queer history attached to that, or history of the queers attached to it. Now, Elaine Locke, Zora Neale Hurston, and Langston Hughes were all peas in the pod. They were all under this clear man. We talked about it last week. I forget his name. Crap. Who was actually the one who was watching them. He was the one who was a openly gay man who literally was sleeping around with black men and over feminizing black men. I'm sorry, y'all. So that a lot of that was happening. Hold on. Now I want to go here to no, not here yet. Let's go to a little bio on Langston Hughes. So Langston Hughes, who was Langston Hughes? We kind of went over a little bit on him, but we're going to go here. All right. It says Langston Hughes, 1901 to 1906, was a poet, social activist, novelist, playwright, columnist, and a significant figure of the Harlem Renaissance. It says, born in Joplin, Missouri, Hughes was the descendant of enslaved African-American women and white slave owners in Kentucky. There's something I keep telling y'all. We keep finding a very coincidence about the Boule class. All of them got these black mamas with these mysterious white daddies. Have anybody ever noticed that? These people always had these black mammies with these mysterious white daddies. It's kind of like it's kind of like a thing. Like you had to have this package in order to be in this Boule class. But listen, they didn't say that they were biracial. They cosplayed as full Negro. Hell, it was one time Langston went over somewhere to Africa, and the Africans called him a white man. The Africans called him a white man. Yes, just like Frederick Douglass. He was another one. Frederick Douglass was another one who had a black mammy and a mysterious white daddy. I told y'all, they take the biracial kids and listen. It makes me think back to that KKK member when he had that rally and he said 2 things God never created. He said a donkey and no, he didn't say biracial. He said a donkey and he didn't say Creole. What did he say? He said a donkey and a what's the other word for half and halves? Back in the day, it was on the census. I hate when I draw blanks like that. He said it's a Creole and not a Creole. He said a donkey is basically a half and half. And what they're saying is that's a mulatto. Thank you so much, mulatto. But listen, what he said, the clear racist man, was kind of true. This is what he's saying. What he's saying is the government, the powers that be, are literally creating these people on purpose because they're like science projects, if it makes sense. I know we're taught that racism is this and racism is that, but they literally were mixing people on purpose. You ever heard of breeding farms? All of that stuff. And although it was talked about in ignorance and in racism, he had a point. He literally had a point. Not saying people weren't mixing before, because they were. But what I'm saying is they take these babies and they raise them up to the W.E.B. Du Bois and the Langston Hughes of the world, and they are able to use them to cosplay as us, to fool us, and push their agenda. Barack Obama. Have we not forgot about Barack Obama? Phenotypically, he looked like a black man. He had us all fooled. He socializes as a white man, though. He didn't do nothing for black Americans or even Africans for that matter. I'll give you another one. Drake. Yeah, Drake rap. Drake knows very well how to cosplay. But when it's time to go to the rap battle, who Drake went down and sued? All the Negroes. He socializes as a clear man. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This is also, all of this is all tied up. All of this. It's a lot of this stuff ain't coincidences. That's all I'll say. Oh, somebody say Jordan Peele. They say Rosa Parks. It makes sense. And you know she was around there giving out coochie. Let's move on. I ain't gonna get on Rosa today. Not today. All right, so again, it says he got the mysterious daddy. He attended high school in Cleveland, Ohio, where he wrote his first poetry, short stories, and dramatic plays. After a short time in New York, he spent the early 1920s traveling through West Africa and Europe, living in Paris and England. Now, just out of curiosity, if he was born to an African-American slave woman, I just need us to use our common sense. If Langston Hughes was born to an African-American slave, where the hell she get money or he get money to travel to West Africa, Europe, and all these other places? Somebody help me out. Mind you, according to this doctrine, he don't know who his daddy is. So it ain't like his daddy the one got him running around here. It's a mysterious white boy who's his daddy, and his mama was a slave. Why she get money to send him all around the world to go study abroad and all of that? That's another common theme with these people. They all go study abroad. Before Martin Luther King was Martin, he was Michael King. He went out to study in Europe and came back as Martin Luther King Jr. Okay? So with that being said, y'all got to be mindful of this stuff. It wasn't a lot of clear people just running around making sure Negroes was able to travel abroad. It was all done by design. Okay? I'm telling you, the one half and half, and he wasn't really, well, technically half and half, but the one mixed race person that messed them up was Malcolm. Malcolm wasn't supposed to turn out like that. But he shocked the world with the way he did it. And I'm only saying mixed race and not even race, because he's not mixed race because he was black. But his mother was biracial and his father was Black American. Okay. Wasn't his mother from one of the Caribbean islands or something like that? Like, yeah. So that's the one that messed them up. They didn't expect that to go like that. Okay. So all these people are going over to Europe to learn and all this stuff and coming back to America acting like they just regular nigga. All right, it says Hughes returned to the United States in 1924 and to Harlem after graduating from Lincoln University in 1929. His first poem was published in 1921 in The Crisis, and he published his first book of poetry, The Weary Blues, in 1926. Hughes' influential work focused on a racial consciousness devoid of hate. In 1926, he published what will be considered a manifesto of Harlem Renaissance in the nation. The younger Negro artists who create now intend to express our individual dark-skinned selves without fear or shame. If white people are pleased, we are glad. If they are not, it doesn't matter. We know we are beautiful and ugly too. The time cries and the time laughs. If colored people are pleased, we are glad. If they are not, their displeasure doesn't matter either. We build our own temples for tomorrow, strong as we know how, and we stand on top of a mountain free within ourselves. You see the pandering? Have you caught the pandering? Now, this man looked like he would be Creole in New Orleans. This don't look like no whole black man. But again, they starting to blur the lines around here. He talking nigga, but he ain't living nigga. Does that make sense? Fed is what he was. Hughes penned novels, short stories, plays, opera essays, works for children, and autobiography. Hughes' sexuality is debated by scholars, with some finding homosexual codes and unpublished poems to an alleged black male lover to indicate he was homosexual. His primary biographer, Arnold Rampersad, notes that Hughes exhibited a preference for African-American men in his work life and in his life, but was likely asexual. What asexual mean? That mean you like everybody? Does that what that mean? When they say you're asexual, it's too many sexuals going around. I don't know them all. I guess the asexual mean you like everybody. I don't know. Oh, you don't like nobody. I don't know. I'm going to say everybody because they say he loved them a good dog-skinned Negro. But anyways, yeah. So you got to be mindful of the hijack of what be going on behind the scenes. They don't want to tell you what's really going on. They want to make it seem like it ain't what it is so that they can get their agenda pushed, right? I wanted to show you, hold on, before we get into a couple videos. Hurston and Hughes. Now, I told y'all they were all in this Boule class together, okay? Now, these are two major figures in the Harlem Renaissance. As you can see, that's nothing but bourgeoisie tees. That is nothing but bourgeoisie tees. All a bunch of black talented 10th men who were going to rule over the 90%, and they were going to help the powers that be to create the narrative. Okay. Following World War I, many African Americans moved to New York City, primarily from the rural South. They were seeking jobs, looking for change, and finding new hope. Many set down roots in Harlem, which was quickly becoming a cultural mecca as artists' energies coalesced into an exciting hotbed of creativity. The Harlem Renaissance was an impulse, an answer, an identity movement, and a transformational revelation. It creates a serious body of literature and poetry and produces remarkable music and works of art. All right. The last two, Zora Neale Hurston and Langston Hughes, shared a patron, Charlotte Mason, and for many years, a close friendship. The pair even worked together to write the Farracle play, Mule Bone, a comedy of Negro life. Now, these are uppity bourgeoisie Negroes writing about real life Negroes. It's almost like if Carlton Banks were to write the story of Will Smith being born in West Philadelphia. Carlton Banks, even though he is black, don't know a goddamn thing about being born and raised in West Philadelphia. That's literally what we're doing here. And again, because we were so all taught about just only color, we took this and we ran with it. Well, not all of us, but a lot of us did. And that's why they put it in our schools, because they knew that we would see the people and we would just go with the move. Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston ain't know nothing about the Southern Negro. They ain't know nothing about the real niggas. They didn't even come up in them type of environments. So how is it that they're creating the narrative? Because it's not really them. Are you ready for this? It's the powers that be with their face on it. They're blackfacing the message from the powers that be. That's what's happening, okay? And that's why real people in those times didn't rock with them. It says, however, the collaboration ended the friendship. Yuval Taylor wrote about their relationship and falling out in Zora and Langston, a story of friendship and betrayal. Each made significant contributions to literature and influenced generations of black writers. It says Langston Hughes, through his plays, essays, short stories, nonfiction works, and poetry, wrote about racial injustice and racial consciousness and African-American culture that could already be found in jazz and blues that were all over New York City in the 1920s, I'm sorry. His major works included The Weary Blues, Not Without Laughter, Mule Bone, a comedy of Negro life, The Ways of White Folks, Trouble Island, Montage of a Dream Deferred, Famous Negro Heroes of America, 1958, okay? Now, this is Zora. Remember I told y'all she gave dagger tease? My grandma's sister, she looked like her. That's all I'm going to say. Love my auntie down to the ground, okay? But she gave real dagger hardcore tease. Look at her, smoking that Newport. Probably was a camel back then, sitting on that porch. Look at her. Look like she's still with her legs open. Let's see. Yup. You can tell. Look. But anyway, Zora Neale Hurston, 1891-1960, was an anthropologist and author whose works include Mules and Men, Moses, Man of Mountain, and the posthumously published Barracoon, the story of the last black cargo. She wrote her famous novel, Their Eyes Were Watching God, in 1937 as a controversial manifesto of a woman liberated from her racial history and from her brutal domestic violence. She didn't know nothing about this, bro. That the theme that Zora Neale Hurston introduced to American literary life were painful and obvious, but they were also daring and provoked strong reactions and reverberating deliberations. Some African-American literacy critics found her style lacking and questioned her employment of rural dialects. They did not decode the true fabric of her writing. She was one of the first authors to start shaping the voice of African-American anger, and there was no way of making this look nice or cozy. It had to be bitter, unpolished, rude, and authentic. Girl, Zora was around there saying that we was all a bunch of ignorant Negroes who couldn't talk, couldn't walk, couldn't do nothing. That's what Zora Neale was around there telling them folks. But anyway, her and Langston was good friends, but they were all coming up under the same federal umbrella. Okay? That's just what it was. Niggas didn't rock with Langston and niggas didn't rock with no Zora. Period, point blank. Okay? Now, we did watch. Okay, let's go with the move. So we watched a couple documentaries. I showed y'all one with Dane Calloway where he kind of touched on it, and I also showed y'all one from UBTV. Shout out to UBTV. Shout out to Dane and Tanisha Calloway. Love those people's channels. Okay. Now I want to show y'all a couple of videos on the history. I'm sorry, hold on. Of this culture, because listen, this is the stuff This is the stuff that nobody wants to talk about, right? And they don't want to talk about it because, number one, a lot of Negroes don't want to give credence to the fact that it was a lot of LGBTQ people in this movement. And the fact of the matter is, it just absolutely was. I know it didn't seem like it back then, but that's just what it was. There's nothing we can do about it, okay? Ain't her voice so soothing? Girl, she could read. She could just talk to me over some rain in the background. Tanisha Calloway, y'all go follow her on YouTube. That lady voice is so soothing. I just want her to just be saying anything. I don't care what she's saying. And put some rain in the background. Girl, Tanisha will have me sleeping, snoring like a dog. Do you hear me? Snoring like a dog. Her voice is just extremely soothing. Girl, yes, indeed. All right, so let's get into the queer history behind this Harlem Renaissance. And remember, it's just like BLM. We thinking it was for black people, but it was a whole time pushing a whole nother movement. That's some of the things that was going on in this thing, right? And they say it was a lot of freak-offs too, allegedly. But let's I don't want nobody's great-great-grandchild on here talking about, we're suing you. My uncle didn't go to freak-offs. I don't want to hear no ugly ass shit like that, girl. Please. Let's get into it, y'all. Get the likes up.
Some of the ways that we understand American gay history is through the Stonewall uprising as a before and after, right? But I think before Stonewall, there was this incredible moment of gay liberation, queer liberation, black liberation in the 20s in Harlem.
Most people remember learning about the Harlem Renaissance in school. Langston Hughes, blues, jazz, an explosion of artistic talent. But what we don't learn about is that Harlem was also a thriving gay community.
So the way that Harlem became a haven for LGBT life is the way that it became a haven for Black people from all over the world, really. It became this crossroads, right? And the big part of this is the Great Migration, which obviously meant that...
So is he trying to say that Harlem was the first Atlanta? Y'all know how Atlanta is a haven for the Black gays? Is that what they trying to say? That Harlem was the first? Yes, that was a dagger in the suit. She looked kind of cute though, but very masculine. Very, very masculine. A little scary. Looked like she run the till in prison. That was a mask. That was a dagger in the tux. Yes, it was. Ooh, I got to get into Madam CJ. Madam CJ Walker's adopted daughter was part of the Harlem Renaissance. That's crazy work. That is crazy work. Let me read these super chats. I'm sorry. LaShawn Rush, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. Aisha, thank you for the super chat. Giving thanks to you for sharing this much needed information. I grew up hearing these type of combos at home growing up in the 70s. Much love to you. And that's the thing. Thank you so much for the super chat. Listen, Aisha, the people on the ground knew what was going on. It just wasn't publicized. When they taught us about the Harlem Renaissance in school, they ain't mentioned nothing about nobody being gay. But the whole time, that was what a lot of it was. But that's why his story is the way it is. Thank you, Rashida, for the super chat. Langston Hughes is my favorite poet of all time. Wasn't he gay? Sup, y'all? Gay as two left shoes, girl. Yes, ma'am, he was. Gay as two left shoes. Yes, he was. And I don't even know how gay that is, but I get that saying from my mama. Gay as two left shoes. Yes, he was. Aisha, and thank you so much for becoming a new member. All right. So, okay, let's get back into the video, y'all, of a little bit of queer history in the Harlem Renaissance.
A lot of Black people came north, especially to cities that are now considered Black cities like Chicago and Harlem in New York City. It was known at the time as the Black Mecca, right? And so it was in some ways the largest Black city in the world. And it did, of course, include a lot of energy and excitement, cabaret, blues, jazz. So it really was, in some ways, a crossroads of all of these different artistic and musical and cultural energies. A lot of white patrons would go to Harlem, to quote-unquote slum, because the mores were much more relaxed. And especially...
Is that a TS? Not a TS. Was that a drag queen? I think that's a drag, y'all. What y'all think? I don't see no... I think that's a drag. Look at him hiding his face. Your wife still saw you. Your wife still, look at him hiding his face. It don't matter. I'm pretty sure your wife found somebody who's seen you in the paper. It don't matter, sir. Uncover your face. You're over there. And he probably with that woman who ain't his wife. Oh, I hope your wife caught you, you old cracker.
Because the mores were much more relaxed, and especially during the Prohibition era, a lot of these were in some ways, speakeasies.
Vices flourished in Harlem because African Americans did not have the political power to be able to demand that government keep these things out of their neighborhood. And the corruption of the police and of judges, all of that enabled gay activity as well as all kinds of other activity to thrive in Harlem.
A lot of the reasons that a lot of Black folks came to Harlem was because they weren't allowed to be in other parts of the city, right? And so again, it's a paradoxical form of freedom that's based out of legal, economic, and political disenfranchisement.
To this day, when people study the Harlem Renaissance, they often don't consider the LGBTQ aspects of it. And part of that is because many of the gay writers did not actually identify as gay.
And Langston Hughes is a wonderful figure in this era because he's considered somewhat queer, but he was never, never fully out politically, whereas Richard Bruce Nugent is the poster boy for someone who...
I ain't gonna lie, you could look at the pictures of some of these dudes and be like, yeah, he gay. Like, look at it, look how this man sitting. Look how the man right here sitting. Hold on. Look how the man right here sitting. Shoulders back, chest up, chin up. You know what I mean? Like, you could tell. Like, I don't know how people didn't, and I get it. Langston kind of played it off with his little suit and ties, but some of these people, you didn't even have to act. Over the shoulder, please. You know what I mean? Some of them you didn't have to ask. Like, this man looks gay as two left. Like, I didn't have to be from the time to know he looked gay. Like, listen, legs crossed to the guards. Do you hear me? Legs crossed to the guards. Girl, he probably can't even uncross them. He's sitting. Girl, girl, some of these people you didn't have to ask. Like, them people knew, girl.
Was unashamedly out.
And there certainly are many jazz figures who were gay.
Gladys Bentley was notorious for wearing men's clothing in public. I think she would be what we...
Gladys Beverly, one of the pioneers of the daggers. That's her name. Gladys Beverly, y'all. Look at her. She look cute, though. I ain't gonna lie. If you into that type of stuff, she look cute. Shout out to Gladys. They say, Gladys, you know you work too hard. Yeah, shout out to Gladys. Gladys came out and said, I want to put the tux on. I'm not putting on no dress. What's up? And she look cute. She really do. She still looks, obviously she looks like a woman, but she look cute. You know what I mean? Shout out to Gladys. I wonder if that's the Gladys Bird made me talking about when he be saying, I'm doing it for Miss Gladys. Let me stop. Let's move on. I'm too childish.
I think she would be what we would call a butch lesbian. And she wore a white tuxedo, and she played with gender.
There was also, of course, the drag ball scene in Harlem, which not everyone talks about. That goes all the way back to the 20s in Harlem. And so it was quite a free time. And ironically, that freedom of sexual expression as well as gender fluidity really petered out. The Great Depression is said to have caused the downfall of the Harlem Renaissance, as well as the increasing conservatism in American culture after the Second World War.
That conservatism is one of the reasons the Harlem Renaissance isn't remembered as a time of gay liberation.
So there was a retrospective closeting, so to speak, of these figures. The consequences of not teaching the period of the Harlem Renaissance as being inherently queer is that queerness remains white in the cultural imaginary because we don't have this story of Black queerness. I think a lot of people talk about the Stonewall Rebellion in 1969, and a lot of us are trying to re-understand it as being centered on trans women and trans women of color. And
all right, hold on. Okay, I gotta correct him right here. He's calling them trans women. These were not TSs. For the most part. I ain't gonna say none of them were TSs. But they wasn't going down there getting no surgeries. You know what I mean? These were, listen, what happened was, in order to blur a lot of the lines sometimes, what they do is take something that was of old and make something new and put it all together. A lot of these men dressed in drag. A lot of these men dressed as women. But being a TS is a mental thing. It's on the inside. Okay? So I don't like that he said it was the start of the trend, or it was a lot of huge trends. No. And you know, I'm so glad you said that. That is a great example. I'll give you somebody just put it in here. Saucy Santana. I know you're talking about Gladys, but I'm glad you put that in there. Saucy Santana is an example of what a lot of the men, the gay men, the queer men back there were doing. It wasn't the TS thing. Not saying that, listen, not saying that they didn't have people feel like they were born in the wrong body, because they did. I just find it not genuine when these people get on here and be like, oh, well, you know, this was where the trans movement started. No, these were a lot of saucies back then. There were a lot of saucies back then. Saucy is a man. He will tell you that in a second. But when Saucy gets dressed and put his clothes on, Saucy dressed like a woman. It's different from drag. Now, drag people typically do it as a job. Drag queens, we used to go to see drag shows in New Orleans all the time. The drag gays are the people, they're gay men, a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them are gay, but they live their life as men. And they put the outfits on and the hips and the booty and the boobs for a job. That's what they do for a living. That's their livelihood. That's their pastime. But on a regular day-to-day schmegula-degular, you might see a little peach fuzz come out of it. You know what I mean? Like RuPaul. Somebody put it in the chat, like RuPaul is not RuPaul Monday through Friday, but when it's time to get on the show, yes, the glam comes. Yes, and also drag is a much more exaggerated look. Yes, and if you ask me, I can't really say for sure, but it seemed to me like drag was kind of like the mother of the TS and the you know what I mean. Like the drag girls were. Because that drag has been happening since the very beginning of time. The very, very beginning of time. I believe drag is the motherboard that has birthed a lot of the other stuff, like trans, like, you know what I mean? And all this other stuff that they got going on. But shout out to the drags. But I've gone to many drag shows. Love me a good drag show. Matter of fact, my friend had a baby shower and had the drags at her baby shower, and it was co-ed. Oh my God, it was a disaster. It was a disaster. My friend had a baby shower, y'all, and had the drag queens at a co-ed baby shower. Yeah, all the men got mad and walked out. It was a time, but neither here nor there. I love the drags. Shout out to the drags. But I think that what he's doing is taking the drag girls, or even the ones who were like Saucy, and turning around and making them into this TS movement. And honestly, I'm not saying they didn't exist, but not to the extent of what they exist now. Period. So I don't like that. It's disingenuous. You know what I'm saying? And then I feel like they stepping on the drag girls. Because when the drag girls gonna get their things? They are the mothers of all of this shit. When are the drag girls gonna get their things? Because without the drag queens, none of this other stuff exists. So, and I feel like I'm an advocate for the drag girls. When are the drag girls gonna get their things? Because we just act like they don't exist no more since the TS done came about. Shout out to the TS, but I'm just saying. Ooh, that's an old term, Jenny woman. Ooh, that's an old term. You know you've been around old people. You were raised around old people, girl. Jenny woman. Ooh. Oh, to be honest, trans women are just psychotic drag queens. Ooh, I ain't say it. Let's get back into it. I love this, though. I love learning about this because I didn't know about it.
Where a lot of the Black and brown queer people were the ones who were at the forefront of this movement. And so it's important to uncover this history to, again, recover these ancestors who really led the charge and try to unforget all the liberation that they created.
I'm curious about Gladys. Let me go find Gladys. Girl, Gladys look like she ran the shit. Hold on. I got to go find Gladys. Now Gladys done got me curious. Get Gladys up here. Gladys. What did I say her last name was, y'all? Harlem. Did he say her name was Gladys? Gladys Bentley. That's her name. That's her name. I want to know more about Gladys. I'm curious as hell about Gladys. They see, and that's another thing. They did that to the daggers and to the L's. Y'all want to tell us all about the queers, but y'all don't want to tell us about Gladys. Oh no, we about to get into Gladys right now. Not gonna do it. Not gonna let y'all do it. See, that's what's wrong with the community. To the LGBTQ. Remember, it starts with the L's. Okay. Everybody want to popular. Everybody want to be in front of the line, but the movement start with the L's. So we gonna give a little credence to the L's. Shout out to Miss Gladys in my Birdman voice. But anyways, let's go get Miss Gladys, the mother of drag. I love this. I love this. Hold on. I love this. Hold on. Let me get it over here.
From a TV show in 1958 hosted by Groucho Marx.
Oh, let me see. Let me make sure I give the props to this channel. This is, hold on, American Masters PBS. All right, let's get into Miss Gladys. I love this. Let's go.
It's extraordinary not only because of the amazing blues performance, but because a national television show was featuring a Black woman who openly loved other women and who, despite the dress that she was wearing here, was a drag king. Her name was Gladys Bentley. She was a part of the Harlem Renaissance, a revival of Black culture that included iconic writers and musicians like Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston, Duke Ellington, and Louis Armstrong. Gladys Bentley isn't as well known. Was it because she was queer? Either way, I have the story of this gender-bending blues musician for you right now. Welcome to Masters of Drag, where we're telling you stories of American drag pioneers. Many drag performers can relate to the very first moments when we discovered our inner king, queen, or royalty. For me, it was the moment that I got dressed in full drag in front of my entire high school for the drag competition. And guess what? I won. Likewise, Bentley knew from a very early age that her image didn't fully represent who she was inside. Born in Philadelphia in 1907, Bentley started stealing her brother's suits from the time that she was 9 years old and said that she felt more comfortable in boys' clothes. Around this time, she was also starting to realize her own attraction to women. As a young teenager, Bentley's parents took her to a bunch of doctors trying to cure her lesbianism. These so-called medical experts believed that being gay was pathological. By age 16, Bentley had had enough, and she ran away to live in Harlem, New York, to chase her dreams of becoming a musician. Prohibition was in full swing, and underground house parties became hotspots for booze, mixed-race mingling, and same-sex dancing. Sounds like a normal weekend at Barracuda for me, honey. After working in the
Yes, this person is a TS, but she's pretty, nonetheless. She's a pretty TS, and her skin is flawless. Just might I add that part too.
Harlem house party circuit for a while, Bentley finally got a shot to perform at a bona fide nightclub, which was just searching for a male piano player. But Bentley came in and blew the competition away with her fierce piano and vocal skills. I can identify with that. Bentley's career soon took off. She was loud, proud, and open. She once scandalously revealed to reporters that she married a white woman. Though the identity of the woman nor the truth of these claims were ever confirmed, we couldn't find the wedding photos, so who knows? Her signature look was iconic. She would show up regularly at gigs dressed to the nines in a fabulous tuxedo.
Is it me? Why they always gotta go marry the clear people? I don't care if they gay, straight, up, down, or left and right. They always gotta go get one of these clear people. Is that in the contract? Like, I don't care what the sexual orientation is. They always gotta go get one of them clears. That bothers me. Yeah, it wasn't legal back then. Now, I don't know what the law was in New York, but I do know they was in there busting through bathhouses and all of that. I don't know. Armand said it's in the fine print. Sound about right. Sound about right. Now that's a good thing. Atomic. I mean, that's a good point. It could have been a status thing. It could have. It could have been having a clear person on your arm was a symbol of status. To who? But I don't know. But that makes sense. I could see that. I could see that. Because think about it. Even Don Lemon and all those other people today, they all got clear men. Like it's just like y'all can't find a black man even. But again, I spoke with a few gay people in the community, and they tell us that the ones who make it to the tippy top, they typically go to the clears. They don't really date amongst other blacks. That allegedly they go toward the clear way. That's crazy.
Drag. Now, this may be the time for me to spill a little tea for a second. There are some critics out there who think that women can't do drag, but I'm here to tell y'all that gay men do not own the idea of gender performance. Okay. Women absolutely 100% can and should do drag. By the late 1920s, Bentley was recording her own music. She was lauded by the likes of Langston Hughes, who once called her a perfect piece of African sculpture, animated by her own rhythm. But outside of the world of entertainment, Bentley often received criticism and backlash about her lifestyle and her many tall tales. Some of the criticism came from religious members of the African American community itself. They were apparently concerned that Bentley was damaging to racial uplift in the era of Jim Crow. When Prohibition ended in the 1930s, there was a crackdown on illicit or disorderly bar spaces. Disorderly being code word for gay. And Bentley's popularity petered out. So, in 1937, Bentley decided to pack up and move to Los Angeles. There, she kept playing at various upscale supper clubs and bars, but was forced to tone down her act and wear skirts by bar owners who didn't want to break California's anti-cross-dressing laws. During this time, Bentley was forced to reinvent herself and go back into the closet, just so she could still perform the music that she loved in public. In 1952, she wrote her life story in an article for Ebony magazine entitled, "I'm a Woman Again." For many years, I lived in a personal hell, she wrote. Like a great number of lost souls, I inhabited that half-shadow no man's land which exists between the boundaries of the two sexes. In the article, Bentley claimed that she was cured after taking hormone treatments, and also that she was now married to a man. She released photos of herself cooking and cleaning, essentially performing her femininity. If you read the article closely, though, you'll see that she's really talking about the struggles and heartbreak of being shunned by society. I think it's really a plea for understanding and compassion. In the later part of her life, Bentley also found religion. She was studying to be an ordained minister when she died of complications from the flu at age 52.
Yes, baby.
The world briefly embraced, but was ultimately not ready for Gladys Bentley. The entire drag community has pioneering icons like her to thank for setting the stage for artists today to more freely express who they truly are on the inside and on the outside. Although we don't know that she would have identified as trans, it's undeniable that her legacy was inspiring to those who do. Drag history is longer than most of us think.
I think that's messed up. I believe that lady had to change her lifestyle simply because of the people around her. And 52 is super young. That is super young. I feel bad for that lady. That lady probably went into religion and all that stuff to try to just, I don't know, bro. I just don't believe you're going to make me believe that lady from a little bitty girl knew that she wanted to dress as boys and she loved their clothes, and then she all of a sudden just have a change of heart. I don't believe that. Kiana says you can die from the flu. So you got to understand the flu came around in the 1920s, 30s. I want to say the 20s. Don't quote me. But when the flu first came around, you remember how the panorama just happened and a lot of people were unaliving from it or dying from it. Let's just say that. It's the same thing with the flu. Before they were able to find it, to basically get a hold of it, and a lot of people were able to get immunity from it. A lot of people were getting stuff, were dying of the flu, and then also complications from the flu. So you might catch the flu and then mess around and catch pneumonia and die from pneumonia. You know what I mean? So it was things like that, just like the panorama. Yeah, it'll balance out at some point. It'll balance out at some point, but at the beginning stages of it, you can get any type of stuff, okay? But now, according to Miss Gladys, though, I feel like she was forced to do that. I don't think that lady wanted to do that. I think she just had to do it, and it sucks because she couldn't be herself. It really, really sucks. It really, really sucks. But I'm glad to learn about Miss Gladys Bentley. She was an icon, and she was a great sound like pianist and singer. And she was also a very pretty woman too. Very pretty woman. I mean, I know she had her dagger teeth going, but when she was a woman, she was that too. Now I want to go here with it, you guys. Shout out to everybody in the building. Get the likes up. Get the likes up. Get the likes up. Now I want to show y'all another history on the queer history of Harlem. Hold on one second. I gotta open it up on YouTube. Hold on. Damn. Shit louder than a bitch. All right. So I want to bring y'all here about this Harlem Renaissance, because again, this ain't something they're gonna teach you in school. Shout out to Now This. Is that the name of the channel? Yes, Now This. They're not gonna teach us this in school. When I was taught about the Harlem Renaissance, I am a history buff, so I paid attention to everything. When they taught us about the Harlem Renaissance, they didn't teach us nothing about the gay part. Is it true MLK was gay? That's what the FBI said. That's what the FBI said. And they say they're going to release the sex tapes here in a couple of years now. That's what the FBI said. I didn't say it. That's what the police said. So don't come. I didn't say it. This is what the police said. Yes. They say he was. Yes. Allegedly. Gay for pay? No, just gay for the day. Oh, it won't be video fat. It's going to be audio. So you're going to hear, oh, I have a dream. Oh, I think I'm going to come. Baby to my girl. Oh my God, this is a mess. I will be listening to the tapes. If you guys, whenever the tapes drop, we will be over on Rumble. Listen, I might do we might have to do a Zoom on that one. We're gonna go on Zoom because we're gonna roll it out. We're gonna roll it out. When Mike tapes drop, we're gonna go on Zoom because we need privacy. Okay? We need privacy to review the tapes. They say it was so much stuff going on with Mike. They say you couldn't listen. All I know is we're gonna need some privacy. When the tapes drop, y'all meet me on the Rumble, please. Okay? They say freak offs. They say, oh, girl, yes. Threesomes, big old freak offs. Quiet as it's kept. Y'all do know allegedly he had messed with Aretha. Riri. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. When she was about 15, 16, allegedly. Because he was hanging out with her paw, and we all know how her paw got down. And allegedly, they said that's where they used to be at the freak-offs. Aretha Franklin, Auntie Ree, yay. Allegedly. Now, this was before Coretta, I think. But it don't matter. Allegedly. But they said that Mike. Yep. Let's move on. We getting back on Rumble too, Medusa. I'm sorry about that. Work been working, but guess what? We getting back on Rumble. Yes, the church folk. Girl, I told y'all we pulled it up one time. Ray Charles said the craziest freak off he ever been to was through the Baptist church. It might be on my Rumble thing who I talked about, Aretha Franklin. Yes, he did. Girl, Ray Charles said the craziest freak off he ever been to. He didn't call it a freak off, but he said the craziest party he been to like that was through the Baptist church. Let's move on. Auntie got down in the bike. Yes, she did. And you know it's got to be bad if Ray Charles can't see and he said it was the craziest one. Could you imagine the blind nigga saying this is the craziest party I've ever been to? How does he know? Like, how does he really know? He can't see, allegedly. But really think about it. The blind man saying this is the craziest one I've ever. How does he even know? Like, that's a real question. But he must have heard some crazy shit. Listen to me. He had to hear some shit he ain't never heard before. Because that man said, I'm just saying. Let's get back into the video. He can't even see. And he said, this is the craziest one I've never seen. I said, oh my God, what did he hear? What was they saying? Oh my God. Girl, this is crazy. Back to the show, y'all. Sorry about that.
If you ask, in what way did queer people impact the Harlem Renaissance?
Fair use, Copyright Act 1906, 76. I can't remember, but fair use.
One might say that it couldn't have existed without them, without us.
The thing that struck me was the discovery that the most luminous luminaries of the Harlem Renaissance were all gay and lesbian.
To be black and gay, to be a double negative in America, is more than a notion and was like being a part of a secret society.
And that's one of the things that makes this so interesting to me, is that it is both the first time in American history when you have African Americans and whites interacting in a non-clandestine way.
Something thrilling was happening in New York City at the dawn of the 20th century. Thousands of Black folks made their way to a redeveloping neighborhood called Harlem, and a cultural revolution was born. The Harlem Renaissance, or the New Negro Movement as it was often referred to at the time, produced monumental works from poets, singers, artists, and intellectuals. Langston Hughes, Josephine Baker, Count Basie, and Billie Holiday were just some of.
And everybody knew Josephine Baker was a carpet muncher. Everybody knew that. That's why she went to France and she started that. Yeah, everybody knew Josephine Baker was a carpet muncher. Neither here nor there.
The visionaries who gave voice to Black identity and illuminated the struggles of a segregated world. While many people know about the works and figures of the Harlem Renaissance, what is less widely known is how many of those luminaries were queer, and how their queerness not only informed their work, but contributed greatly to the impact of such a formative period in American consciousness. Harlem historian Michael Henry Adams tells us how the oft-forgotten queer history of the Harlem Renaissance is inseparable from the achievements of the movement. I'm Peppermint, and this isn't just our history, this is legendary.
No shade, Peppermint. I ain't gonna lie. This is just if I had to, and who am I? Let's start here first. Who am I? But Peppermint, that's what you say your name is. Hey, Fat. This is just me. I'm everybody different. I'm talking about me. You look like you still lift weights. And maybe that's a look. I don't know. However, I probably wouldn't wear tops with shoulder pads. It's giving linebacker tees in a wig. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know the look Peppermint was going for, but I kept noticing that and I didn't want to say nothing. But then when she said her name was Peppermint, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what the goal is. But if the goal is to give woman tees, then I would probably put down the weight set and, moving on.
Our history, this is legendary.
If you ask, in what way did queer people impact the Harlem Renaissance? One might say that it couldn't have existed without them, without us. Gay people, I think, because of the opportunity that Harlem represented, and also because of having some knowledge that there were other gay people here, were inclined to flock here to try to discover
the Harlem Renaissance looked like a big ass freak off. What the fuck is this? Hold on.
that there were other.
What is this, honey? What is this? See, they wanted to dance and break dance during the daytime and say poetry during the day and do some shit like this at night. What was this? This don't look like nothing that got nothing to do with no Harlem Renaissance. Your sexuality ain't got nothing to do with nothing. What was this? Let me find out. They were saying it was a Harlem Renaissance during the day, but a Diddy party at night. Because this right here don't make no sense. Ain't nothing wrong with being gay, but damn, what is y'all doing? What y'all got going on? Girl, this is a shame. Girl, what is look. Is that chains or a rope around? Never mind. Let's move on.
Gay people here were inclined to flock here to try to discover community and to make common cause. And so this concentration of people meant that some of the brightest lights of the Harlem Renaissance were gay. So, of course, near the top of the list is Langston Hughes. And then you have Count Cullen, his friend, the poet. And then you have Wallace Thurman, who was a novelist. So much of the biases and racism that exist in the broader culture exists amongst gay people. One did.
Not a freak off as the Civil Rights Edition. Y'all see it. Could you imagine getting beat up at the lunch counter and going to a freak off at night once you get out of jail? Girl, how you still have time to have a freak off? How do you even have the energy to have the freak off at night, girl? They just beat you up and threw the dogs on you. How do you even have time to do the freak off at night? Well, people make time for what they want, right? Girl, could you imagine the freak off Civil Rights Edition? I cannot. I'm just saying, I know for me, I will be tired. I have to catch them tomorrow, but I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Meet someone in the clink. I'm not about to play with y'all. That's crazy. Somebody said earlier, after all that dances, they still had time. Girl, apparently they had time to get beat in the head with billy clubs, water hoses, and dogs on them, and still have to. Let's move on. Allegedly.
Have this kind of situation where, irrespective of race, being gay and lesbian was like being a part of a secret society. The thing of it is, when you're talking about African Americans who are gay, they've all got some relation who desperately want them to be straight. And so there are even people who try to infer that James Baldwin is straight. There's Langston Hughes descendants who tried to infer that he was straight. And then there are these people, they try to infer that Dorothy West was straight. I'm interested in landmarks that represent not just people of color, but also LGBTQ plus people, because both groups are the same in terms of the fact that with marginalized people, you tend to have our history eviscerated, erased. And there are no more tangible reminders of history, I think, than buildings where people lived and loved and worked and worshipped. And therefore, for people to be able to see these places where the greats of the past lived is, I think, very impactful. New York, 130 odd years ago, was as racist and segregated as every other part of America. And after the riot of 1900 in West Side of New York, a lot of African Americans who lived on the West Side, as a consequence of the riot, wanted to move somewhere else. And then you had Harlem, which, in anticipation of the Broadway IRT subway, which was first announced in the 1890s, in anticipation of the completion of the subway, you had all these developers who were building new tenement buildings and new first-class apartment houses, anticipating that for the first time, you could have working-class people live at some distance from where they lived and economically be able to get to work quickly. Black people came to Harlem in such vast numbers, with it being estimated that, by 1920, there was somewhere around 500,000 African Americans living in Harlem, that it was appreciated by just about everyone that Harlem would remain a Black community for the foreseeable future.
What happened to the? Oh, they must have muted it for copyright reasons. Let me say this too. A lot of the reason a lot of Black people were pouring into New York, because I remember I told y'all a little while ago, there were Black people who occupied New York who were natives of New York. They were ran out of Seneca Village and they created Central Park, I'm sorry. And then all of a sudden they reopened New York for Black people to come in, but this is the melting pot. So not only are Black Southerners coming in, you're getting a lot of people coming from the Caribbean islands and maybe a little couple from Africa and all that stuff too. But this was to dilute the population of indigenous Black Americans, us, our people. That's what this is all about. Now, couple that with the LGBTQ movement that's presented as something for Black people, when really it's probably an underground freak off, okay? Allegedly, maybe, I don't know. But couple that with the Harlem Renaissance and the talents of Black Americans and other Black people who were in the Harlem Renaissance, and then you have that's a whole other ball of confusion on top of what was really everything that was going on. Because remember, they're showing it as a Black thing, a Black movement thing, but the whole time it wasn't really about the Black movement. It really was about this movement, like Black Lives Matter. Okay, same shit, different toilet, flush it. Okay. So that's crazy though. When you really start to peel back the layers, that's why we do Educational Friday to really figure this stuff out. Let me see if they just muted it for the copyright. Hold on, because it probably was playing something. They probably uploaded it.
Many historians reckon that the Harlem Renaissance, which at the time was usually referred to as the Negro Renaissance of the new Negro. Most historians say, well, that occurred in 1925, and it occurred specifically because Elaine Leroy Locke, this African-American gay
Langston Pump and Dump
philosopher who headed the philosophy department at Howard University, that he edited a Harlem issue of this magazine called Survey Graphic. Most of the contributors were Black, and all of the contributions were about Black people in Harlem. And then in 21, I think it is, you had the Broadway musical Shuffle Along that opened in Harlem. Many people say that that is the event that launched the Negro Renaissance, from whites coming to Harlem to see the show and to become entranced by jazz and wanting to venture to that wild side that was Harlem, to experience sex, drugs, and rock and roll, except rock and roll was jazz.
I just thought about something. I don't mean to cut their wisdom, but real quick. Although music wasn't the main portion, or it wasn't supposed to be the main dish of the Harlem Renaissance, it was supposed to be literature. Louis Armstrong, who was a New Orleans native, he was the one who kind of popularized jazz. Between him, Fats Domino's, another New Orleans native, and all that stuff. And at that point, and that type of stuff, but. He made a song called Drop Me Off in Harlem. Y'all think Louis Armstrong was a little loose-wristed, and that's why he kept talking about drop me off in Harlem? Remember I be saying that? Drop me off in Harlem. Good old Harlem. I don't know if he said good old Harlem, but I just put that in. But I wonder if Louis, you know what I mean? Because he was just so engulfed and engaged in Harlem. And now that we know what was going on in Harlem, he made a whole song talking about drop him off in Harlem. So now I'm wondering, you know what I mean? Y'all, is it something going on with the YouTube? What's going on with the YouTube? Can y'all not hear? Hold on. Can y'all not hear? Hold on 1 second. It cut off? Oh. You know what? Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? It's bad. Can y'all hear me? I think it's copyright, y'all. I think it's copyright tease. Oh, girl. All that time I didn't know that. I had to pull it up on my phone. I kept seeing y'all. They hating. Nigga said Jag did it. She probably did. I don't think Jag did it. I don't think Jag be over here in on Educational Fridays. You know what I'm saying? I think it may be. Let me check my email. It may be some copyright stuff because I remember that happened. Yes. Due to copyright match, your stream was interrupted. After copyright material is no longer being streamed, streams are automatically re-enabled. So that's what it was. It was copyright, y'all. But it was copyright through, let me see which, they didn't say which one, but it was the copyright probably for this video that I'm playing, because this is by Now This, which is a big platform. So probably that. So well, we're not PBS, that's what it is. It's the copyright. That's what it was. So because I did that before one time, I was on here playing Lil Kim. I don't know why I did that. Oh, I had already got demonetized. But let's move here because they did that because they don't want us to watch this. Okay. Let's go here with it then. We're gonna move from here. We kind of got the gist of the LGBTQ movement. Let's go to Lorraine Hansberry. You know, she wrote what did she write? The Eyes Were Watching or something like that? Not The Eyes Were Watching. Hold on. Y'all remember Lorraine Hansberry? Hold on. Girl, who this for? Because I don't want nobody to copyright me down to the ground again. A Raisin in the Sun. That's what she made. A Raisin in the Sun. Lorraine Hansberry was another one. Remember, these are all under this Boule W.E.B. Du Bois umbrella. Okay? Y'all got to ask yourself why. Y'all have to ask yourself why. It's a coincidence that all these people coming up under these Boule people, and they are the top tier of the top tier. Okay. But shout out to the black people anyway, because they steal from Acorn. It just is what it is. I want to get on Lorraine Hansberry, who's another one attached to this movement. This is like a 2-minute video. It's not that long. She wrote A Raisin in the Sun. I heard that. Do I remember that book? I don't remember. I think I remember feeling like I read it. Yes, the whole Harlem Renaissance movement was gay. Shout out to the gays. Okay. But yes, the entire Renaissance, from what I'm seeing now, the entire Renaissance movement, Harlem Renaissance, was gay. Loose-wristed. Shout out to the gays though. But yeah, so that's what we're learning now, okay? Let's get into it. Ain't Puff from Harlem? Yeesh. Let's get into it. Now let's get on Lorraine Hansberry. It's not a long video. It's pretty short.
The wonderful Lorraine Hansberry. When you go through this play, she is talking about issues relevant today.
Born in 1930 Chicago. They ain't gonna say nothing. Father was Hansberry versus Lee. Wait, who her daddy was? I knew she had some type of political ties. Hold on, girl. Who your daddy is? Her father led Hansberry versus Lee, an anti-segregation lawsuit. Okay. What else they say? Which eventually made its way to Supreme Court. I'm pretty sure her daddy was a Boule. Prominent black leaders like W.E.B. Du Bois often visited her home. Oh yeah, he was definitely Boule. 1948, Hansberry enrolled to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, but dropped out to pursue writing in New York City. She began working for Freedom, a newspaper published by Paul Robeson, where she reported on global civil rights and colonialist movements. These people were spies, y'all. See, when they say they reported on this and they reported on that, they were spies. They were spies. They were spies. They were spies. Zora Neale Hurston, spy. Langston Hughes, spy. All of these people were spies. Hello, is this thing on? Lorraine Hansberry, spy. That's what they were, spies for the federal government, okay? It's not what you thought it was. I promise you it's not. Ridiculous. She married songwriter, another clear man, Robert Nemiroff in 1953. They divorced in 1962, but continue to work together. Her personal writing suggests Hansberry privately identified as lesbian. Though she never made this identity public. 1957, she wrote a play called The Crystal Star about a black family in Chicago chasing the American dream. She soon retitled the play to A Raisin in the Sun after a poem by Langston Hughes. It opened in 1959 to critically acclaim and won Hansberry a New York Drama Critics Circle Award. The play spawned a film of an adaptation starring Sidney Poitier. Hansberry 1964 follow-up, The Sign in Sydney. What? Say it again now. Go back a little bit. The Sign in Sydney. Brewston's Window opened to mixed reviews. The same year, Hansberry was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Damn. She died in 1965 at 34. She was that young? She really died that young at 34? OMG. That is, how she get pancreatic cancer at 34? Ooh, that's a good question. Is that where the women of Brewster's Place come from? 34 pancreatic cancer though? That's big. Son says she married her beard and then got with a glass of clear milk woman. She might have, girl. Listen, the moral of the story is this. What y'all say? Tupac mama was a spy? I don't put nothing past nobody, man. Help me out. A Raisin in the Sun. Was that the movie where the black dude, his mama bought the first house? I'm trying to remember if this is the same movie. He came in and the mama got approved to buy her a house. She was buying a house for the family, but he was the black man and it was his mama who was buying the house. Was that movie? Like, I feel like that was that was that movie. Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Talanda. Yes, okay, thank y'all so much. I thought so. I was like, I feel like I know the movie or I know the book. I feel like I read the book in school and then I saw the movie somehow. I don't know why. I feel like I read the book and I saw the movie. I just don't remember all the details of it. I should probably watch it again. But yeah, this is the thing. And I just want to say this to the black, gay, queer community. I love the black, gay, queer community. I'm still having issues with some of the TSs, not all of them, but it's the TSs on the internet that really put a sour taste in my mouth for some of them, not all of them. But I love the black, gay community, and I think that a lot of our prominent people came out of the black, gay community. Let me just say this. My only issue I have with it is the same issue I have with Black Lives Matter. Be that movement. Don't disguise your movement with our struggle. And I'm saying ours because it belongs to the black gay person as well. But don't disguise it with the struggle. Just make the movement. Okay? I get it. Even back in those days in the early 1900s, wasn't nobody just outwardly proud and, well, for the most part. Most people weren't outwardly proud and gay. So I get that aspect of it. But I'm bad enough. We got everybody and their mama hijacking our pain to push their own agenda. It kind of hit a little different when it's our own people using that to push their agenda, like Black Lives Matter. To me, In my opinion, yes, James Baldwin was gay. I forgot. I gotta write him down too. We gotta do a James Baldwin Educational Friday too. I thought James Baldwin was like extremely like he was just. I don't know. He was one of the amazing ones. He really was. Let me write James Baldwin down. We got to get him on here too. But I'm saying all that to say this, y'all. I think the problem I have with it is the disguise of it all. And again, I get it back then, but now today's you don't have to do that. You really don't. But I feel like that's what's been done, and that's what's going to continue to be done, because even though it's out and proud, it's still taboo in some people's lives, especially Black people. But neither here nor there. I didn't know growing up that the Harlem Renaissance was really a bunch of LGBTQ people, and I think that should have been highlighted. I think it should have been. But that's what Educational Friday is about. Yes, I'm still on Rumble right now, but that's what Educational Friday is about. What Educational Friday is about is unlearning what we were taught, because they taught us a lot of BS is what they taught us. Okay. I hate that we were taught it one way and have to find out, which most of us don't find out, but have to find out later on it was something completely different. But again, it's all around political ties and a bunch of, how do you say? It's all wrapped around spies and agendas. Okay. It's bigger than the LGBT agenda. It's the powers that be. Okay. They're using us all. Okay. Let me read a couple more super chats. I think I missed one or two. Aisha M, thank you for becoming a new member. Son, thank you for the super chat. Greek and Roman culture were homosexual, no women. Yes. And you know, too, a lot of men that went to battle in those cultures, it was already widely known that they were allegedly. Yes. Son, thank you for the super chat. Reverend Franklin, Billy Preston, James Cleveland, too. Oh, yeah. Masters of the Freak Offs. Yes, they was. Oh, yes, they was. Son, thank you for the super chat. YouTube, y'all, is dirty as F. It was me. It was playing that. Now this clip, they don't like that. Now this came and snatched and said, bitch, give me that. Do not play my video. Yeah, I don't care if you say fair use. Now this said, don't play my shit. So that's why it got interrupted. But I apologize. If y'all want the full stream, I think I repeated everything that got messed up anyway, but it's on Rumble and Twitch. Okay. Now, with that being said, I gotta get off of here, y'all. We got a late Joe. So I'm sorry that it's so late, but I'm about to get off of here and sit down and rest my nerves. I feel like I've been working all day. I appreciate each and everybody for being here. I'm a Joe Shaw up out of here. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. I've been doing a lot of research on this whole thing with Naziah Harris. And yeah, it's crazy, but we'll get into it later on. Love y'all down to the ground. I'll see y'all later tomorrow. Peace.
Can you hear me now? Oh, let's go. It's your boy Big Chew, the voice of the beat. You know what I want? Blaze up. Come on, blaze up.
It's the beat for me.
Wah, 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 for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Drop it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Do it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Come on, baby, we love. For your boy. For your boy. Also for your boy. Fix it for your boy. Drop it for your lift it up.
Mr. Carroll, how you give the voodoo doll time to talk? I don't get no fucking time to talk.
Who the voodoo doll is?
The nigga you just had up here.